pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Lord, since vacation time is over for our children, and tomorrow they begin their first day of school, we ask that you bless them, that you bless all those that we entrust their care with. We also, since Labor Day ended, we ask for your blessing upon our labor force in this nation, and also special blessings for those that are unemployed, so somehow or another things turn around for them. And one of the big special things we ask is that prosperity hits our city again. Amen.
Amen.
That was really good.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Stafford.
Here.
Alderman Lincoln.
Here.
Alderman Sahaski.
Here.
Alderman Weston.
Here.
Alderman Cavallaro.
Here.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Woodward.
Here.
City Attorney David Hawthorne.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none. First item.
Whereas Louis J. Fabrizio passed from this life on August 30th, 2003 at St. Luke Health Services in Oswego, New York. And whereas Louis J. Fabrizio was born in Cortland, New York and has been a resident of Fulton since 1948. And whereas he was a graduate of Cortland High School and served in the United States Navy during World War II from 1942 to 1945 and landed at Normandy Beach as a baker's first class. And whereas Louis J. Fabrizio worked at the Sealright Company in Fulton as a baker for 19 and a half years until the bakery department closed, he was later employed at the Oswego County Jail as a chef. And whereas Mr. Fabrizio and his wife Marie owned and operated the Fabrizio Cake Shop out of their home for 20 years. And whereas he also worked as an assistant manager at Cooper Dining Hall at SUNY Oswego until he retired. And whereas Louis J. Fabrizio was a communicant of Holy Family Chapel in Fulton, where he served as an usher for many years. And whereas he was active in Oswego County politics and served as a committeeman for 13 years and served as a First Ward Alderman for the Fulton Common Council for 6 years and a county legislator for the First Ward for 4 years. And whereas he served as an associate assessor for the City of Fulton and chairman of the Board of Assessment and Review for several years. And whereas he served on the St. Lawrence Eastern Ontario Commission for 14 years, was a member of the Cortland VFW, the Cortland American Legion, and the Cortland San Rocco Lodge. And whereas Louis J. Fabrizio is survived by his wife of 60 years, Marie Spaziani Fabrizio of Fulton, his son Gary Fabrizio of Orlando, Florida, his 2 daughters Cheryl Thornburg of Fulton and Elaine Angwell of Kissimmee, Florida, 8 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and several nieces and nephews. And whereas the mayor, members of the Common Council, his family, his friends, and his community will sorely miss this very kind and generous man who touched so many lives. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, members of the Common Council share a great sense of loss with the late Louis J. Fabrizio, with his family and friends, and do with deepest regret take official notice of the loss of this very special man. Be it further resolved that this resolution of respect be spread upon the official records of this Common Council meeting of September 2nd, 2003, and copies of it transmitted to the immediate family of the late Louis J. Fabrizio.
Motion?
I'll move it. I'd like to second it.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yes.
In the mid-'80s, I had the opportunity to do some work with Mr. Fabrizio. It was for about a 1 or 2 year span, and he was a very kind and gentle man and a very honest and decent person. And he was community-minded, and he did work in local politics, but he always really worked for who he thought was best for the community. And I didn't realize that he had passed away. I know his wife, or I did know his wife, and she was a real sweet woman. And they were both very committed family people and very community-oriented people. And I'd just like to say that I'm sorry to hear that, and my condolences go to his family.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item.
Resolved that the minutes of this common council meeting held on Tuesday, August 19th, 2003 are hereby approved as per attached.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that the city clerk be authorized and directed to advertise to receive sealed bids in his office in Fulton Municipal Building on or before September 22nd, 2003, up to 4 p.m., and to be publicly open that same day at 4:15 p.m. in the Common Council chambers on the second floor. Said bids shall be in accordance with specifications prepared by the engineering department, and it's for a new basketball ceiling suspended backstop for the Fulton War Memorial.
I'll offer that, yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved, the clerk is authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids in his office in the municipal building for telescopic bleachers. They shall be received on Monday, September 22nd, up to 4 p.m. and publicly open at 4:15 p.m. that same day in accordance with specifications prepared by the Fulton Engineering Department.
Motion?
I'd like to move that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas the clerk was authorized and directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held at this meeting on September 2nd relative to a proposed right-of-way request submitted by Jennifer Dowd for a new driveway and to widen an existing parking space at a residence at 520 West First Street. Whereas the Fulton Planning Commission at their meeting of August 11th, 2003, recommended that the new driveway be approved, but denied the request to widen the existing parking space. Whereas the Common Council has final authority to approve or deny a proposed right-of-way request after a recommendation is made to the Council by the Planning Commission. Mayor Stafford will open the public hearing.
Is there anyone here this evening to speak on this issue? Please come forward. State your name and address.
Linda Rossiter, 21 Soloway Drive. I am Jennifer Dowd's mother. Due to required attendance at her grad classes, I came on her behalf this evening. I asked that a survey of her house be passed out to you, and you'll notice in yellow you have existing concrete that is currently there, sidewalks, the parking pad, and the next-door neighbor's driveway. In green, you'll show the green space around the house between the sidewalk and the curb. And in white were the two areas that she proposed to ask for the right-of-way. The planning board did look at this, and I don't know if they realized at that time, but because of the lack of parking and the snow situation and the traffic on West First, exiting this area from people's driveways is extremely dangerous. And as it is, in the winter, you cannot back into the space that is set there as it has been for probably 40 years for parking there. She's only owned the home a little less than 2 years, and she's upgrading as quickly as she can on the property. The one particular small area that you will see on the right side of your page that says existing pad, that is in yellow, and then the parish driveway also in yellow, the space between that at the street is about 5 feet wide. It is about 10 to 11 feet wide when you get to the sidewalk. If possible, that is the most desirable place that she would like to make this improvement so that both she and her neighbors then could, if necessary, turn around and enter West First Street, front end first with their cars for visibility, and it would then allow them to snow blow and plow that area fully rather than ripping up the grass, which is what happened last winter. The one on the left, which is the larger area, is the least desirable of the two. She would like to do both if possible, but if she could really only have one based on the city council's decision, she would prefer to have the one on the right.
Is it her plan to put concrete in this, or blacktop, or?
All right. The existing pad is concrete, and so is the parish's driveway. And our feeling was, when we discussed it, despite the increased expense of concrete, that it would be more aesthetically pleasing to stick with the concrete and keep the area looking appropriate.
And with the second one also?
It would be concrete. We have not had a quote on that, and again, it is a money issue. She's a new young teacher, and she has a baby and a house that she's trying to renovate, so it is a money issue. Our intentions would be to do concrete with both. Because we think it would be more in keeping, and it would tie into the sidewalk more appropriately.
Right now, you're asking for the one on the right specifically.
The one on the right is the one that is the most desirable, yes. She would like to do both if possible.
But rather than do the second on the left,
She'd rather do the one on the right.
and wouldn't it be more advantageous to later spend the money to create the driveway on the right as well?
The safety issue is such a concern at this point, because even if she goes with the one on the left, there'd be no possibility of turning around in that space and coming out front first, because you can't really back into a property on that street because it's not safe to. And that side is being fenced at this point.
No. What I'm saying is, rather than put the driveway, the second pad
Okay.
to the left of the house, we're going to shoot for the one on the right, and wouldn't it be more advisable, rather than spend the money on that second pad, to create a driveway to the right of the house where you are now asking for that pad?
That would be a potential improvement that she would definitely consider. I can't speak on her behalf about extending it. I know that her money is pretty limited.
Well, ultimately, I think that would be the most advantageous thing. I think parking in the right-of-way causes problems. I know in some cases there are no other alternatives, but eventually, if what she's trying to do is create or improve the property, that the one on the right would be the place to create the driveway.
Yes, it would be.
So why spend the money on the additional
Right.
pad on the left?
It was so that other people could, if necessary, if she has company over, they wouldn't be, if you were to look at that place on the left, and I don't know if the photographs reached you that we had sent to you earlier. I don't know if you got those or not today. If you take a look at the one on the left, it is now about, and it was when she bought the property, 6 inches below the sidewalk. She has just filled it again with dirt and whatnot to bring it up. The rains take that out because I guess it was used for years for parking, and that is in pretty rough shape. So if people have to pull in to park, they've pulled on that. And so what she's doing right now is filling it and try to improve that spot because it's pretty messy.
Would you, I'm familiar with the area because
Yes.
I'm your alderman, and I did go up there and look at it, and I know that you are upgrading. Would you still be interested in doing both of them?
Yes, she would be.
All right, I would like to introduce a resolution that she does with her plans called for here.
The two spaces.
I think I'd like more discussion before we put a resolution on the table. I wonder if I could ask Chairman Farini to kind of refresh my memory as to what the Planning Commission had decided as far as the driveway on the right.
Get so many of these, and keep track of them all.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
But I believe the planning commission recommended
I'll second the motion.
the driveway on the right. And not the one on the left.
We have a motion and a second on the original resolution.
We got a public hearing going on, first of all.
Right, but we have a motion and a second first already on the resolution.
Actually, the motion would
So
have, there would have to be a motion to close the hearing first, actually.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
But the mayor has those pictures to put into the record, too.
Oh, they found the original. It's good.
Yes, the zoning office brought them up this afternoon.
If you'll notice, I think in one of them, you'll see a blue-green Nissan. That is the most desirable spot, and you can see that that is where the parking currently goes on. It provides her safer access to the house because it opens her car doors towards her front door rather than towards the corner property.
I can see how the driveway to the right would be beneficial, but I have real concern about an additional driveway to the left.
I'm not sure if you're, there are also some of her neighbors here if you would like to speak to them. She has spoken to Mr. Fruce and also to Mr. Raponi, who stopped by and spoke to her regarding it, and they supported her, but Mr. Fruce said he was sending a letter because he couldn't be here and the letter didn't arrive.
Okay. No, I've seen it. So.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Well, actually, you might be right.
Your Honor, is there other people that need to speak?
I don't know.
I think
Yes,
she's made herself pretty clear.
yes, there are neighbors here also if you'd like to speak to them.
I think.
Yes, if there are others that care to speak on this issue, by all means, please come forward.
You're right. Let's see. Approve the second and deny the first.
All right, my name is Richard Parrish, and I'm the next-door neighbor north of her she's talking about. And they are parking there now, and if they continue that, it's just going to end up a mess, mud hole. And I, myself, personally, I just soon see it paved, and I think it'd be a big improvement myself.
That is the one between your driveway and
Her driveway, yes. And they are parking there, and I feel if they continue to park there, it's just going to turn into a big mud hole. And that's not going to be very attractive for anybody. All right, thank you.
Excuse me, if that was paved, then you could also turn around in that,
Yes,
so it would benefit you and would benefit...
right. It benefits both of us.
both of you. Okay.
Anyone else to speak on this issue? Joe, are you set with those so that
Yeah.
the others can see them?
Wait. Yeah, I remember.
I guess so.
I saw Bob seen
Working
I've seen
hard.
it before, too.
Yeah.
That's tired.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve.
Is this open place? Somebody buy
We have a motion on
I
the
mean,
floor.
after we close.
We have to have a motion first to close the hearing.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Are there any other questions from the council?
The only thing I wanted to know, Your Honor, is that second spot they wanted, the alternative to parking there is on the street, right? Is that better?
No, there's no parking on the street in that area. I
parking.
think, but what,
Across the
looks at
street.
that one sign right there, I don't think there's parking allowed there.
There is no parking allowed there in front of that house at all.
Not in that area.
Across the street there is.
Across the street, there are a couple parking
Oh,
spots
yes.
in front of the other neighbors' houses.
Yeah, but still, parking on the streets is not that desirable. I don't, my opinion.
How many cars does she have at this time?
She has one she's looking possibly to change. She has one of her own.
Okay.
Her husband also has one that's, it's a company truck that's there sometimes.
But if they pave the area between the two existing driveways right now, there would be room to park both of those vehicles there?
Yes, you could squeeze two vehicles in, but then you wouldn't be able to turn around.
Okay.
Traditionally, what she's parked on the existing pad, and anyone else is parked in that area that is sunken below the street level.
Okay, so just to get a complete understanding of this, she wants to pave in between the two existing so that she will park her car that, and will give her area to swing around and drive onto the street instead of backing onto the street.
That is correct.
Then the other location at the other side of the house will be for her husband's vehicle.
Second family.
Or Ford Cruiser.
Are there any other questions from the council?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll have it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Mayor, at this time, can I introduce a resolution that I'd like to propose a resolution that she do what she wants to do according to this plan?
Both spots, right?
Yes, both
I'll second it.
Do a roll call vote, Your Honor.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Well, you want me to read what it says first?
Yes.
The resolution would then read, now therefore be it resolved that the right-of-way request submitted by Jennifer Dowd for a new driveway and to widen the existing parking space of the residents of 520 West First Street is hereby approved. First ward,
Yes.
second ward,
Yes.
third ward,
No.
fourth ward,
I'm in favor of the requested pad to the right with the hopes that the driveway would be extended at some point, or a driveway be built. But I would not be in favor of both. If that's what the resolution has been amended to say, then I'll have to vote no.
fifth ward, sixth ward.
Yes.
Motion is carried, Your Honor.
Next item.
Resolved that the city clerk be authorized and directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 30th, 7 p.m., relative to an act to repeal. We're going to probably change that to the 23rd. Because of the meeting, we changed the meeting to the 16th to the 23rd.
No, this is going to be a special meeting on the 30th.
Okay. So it stands as September 30th, relative to an act to repeal the current Chapter 103 of the Fulton City Code and to add a new chapter entitled Noise Control Ordinance and to amend Chapter A181 as it pertains to fees in the Fulton City Code.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item.
Resolved, the Chamberlain transfer $6,875 from the contingent account into the engineering account for completion of the groundwater testing at Fulton Municipal Building.
This is the remainder of the testing on those wells that we have out back. There were bills that weren't submitted.
I'll have it.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that the right-of-way request submitted by Mr. William Stell, 255 South 6th Street.
Can I interrupt the clerk for a second? We have a discussion item that really should precede this resolution here if we're going to adopt it, because it wouldn't be fair to the person that is requesting the planning commission to review and make a recommendation back to us under this discussion item. It says proposed resolution for moratorium right-of-way usage, and here we are sending something to the planning commission for the recommendation back to us.
Counselor?
Well, I think if you refer this and then later on in this meeting impose a moratorium, this referral would have to be allowed to go through, timing-wise, and I don't think you can do a moratorium after the fact.
That's all right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that.
So you want to reverse it? Have the discussion before we approve?
Well, that's what my thought was, yes.
I would concur.
I agree.
So wait a minute, talk
Okay,
about
we'll go now
moratorium.
to the discussion item, proposed resolution for moratorium.
Well, I guess I'll start because this was put on before, I believe, at the request of planning. Is that right? This was discussed before at the request of planning for a moratorium on right-of-way requests, and I stopped it because I felt that there were some more legal issues involved than just saying, let it be resolved that a moratorium be placed on all right-of-way requests. until a comprehensive plan zoning committee works out a better, more effective procedure of regulating right-of-way usage. Moratorium has to be for a reasonable purpose. I think that probably the wording in here that until the comprehensive plan zoning committee works out a better, more effective procedure could be deemed a reasonable purpose, but more importantly, it has to be for a reasonable and definite period of time. So if you don't set a specific time, the moratorium is invalid. And that's why I felt that it shouldn't have been passed last time. And if you use this language and put a definite, reasonable amount of time on there, I think it would probably suffice legally, if that's your intention, is to pass this.
I would suggest maximum of 6 months.
All right, can
And
I,
perhaps even less than that, we could.
I think that this merits some debate.
See, the reason why a moratorium now probably would make sense, we're getting into the season where people are not going to be doing right-of-ways with the weather and stuff like that. So I think we're safe with a moratorium, and I know I've had a lot of concerns about right-of-way issues. I've been to the Planning Commission meetings as they deal with them, and then it comes back to the council, and there's just enough of a sort of an indecisive procedure that goes on where the Planning Commission, who hears, basically is having the public hearing there as far as the basics, as far as the what the person's intending to do. So they have a very good discussion. They ask a lot of questions, and I think sometimes when it gets to the council doesn't have anywhere near the kind of questions that the Planning Commission has been asking. So I've had some thoughts, and I know Alderman Cavallaro has. I've talked to Chairman Farini, a couple other members on the Planning Commission, and I think that we should consider, and this is part of the moratorium, is to consider the Planning Commission basically having the same authority that they do now with site plan review on new structures. I think we're spending an awful lot of time on right-of-way issues and driveways when we probably should be spending more time on something else. And I think probably the Planning Commission is in a much better position to make what I consider a very fair, equitable decision, not being influenced sometimes by the council and having to make decisions based on whose ward it's in. That's my thoughts.
All that makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't disagree with that. Right-of-way issues have been an issue in this town since before we incorporated with the West Side. And they'll continue to be because we have a lot of old parts in the town where, especially in the older wards like the 5th and 6th Ward, where many homes and homes that turned into businesses along the way weren't built to accommodate the lifestyles of today. We live in a time where there's 2 and 3 vehicles in a home. And some of these places wouldn't be allowed to have 1 vehicle. When we look at something like this, we need to look at the whole ball of wax in our town. Our town right now, like a lot of towns across the country, and especially in New York State, is falling on hard times. We're raising everything we can raise as far as the financial aspect goes to try to keep the city running. And then on the other hand, we're going to go to our citizens that pay that and one by one take away what they have in the form of convenience for work and other things. I believe that this common council, and it's only my belief, was charged with a responsibility to make decisions based on the people who put them. You can call it politics, you can call it anything you want. I have a lot of faith in the Planning Commission because I know they do a lot of homework. But there is a big difference between people that are appointed by a political body and people that are elected by the citizens of your town. We have the responsibility to serve the people that put us here. And when we give that responsibility away, maybe it's time we hired 6 managers and forgot the political process. That's my feeling. I've been through this a million times. We could go through the 5th Ward and say, well, Marbitos, we just eliminated 10% of your parking because they park on the right-of-way. We could go up Cayuga Street and take 5 houses out of a block and say, you no longer can own a vehicle, but we want you to pay full value property taxes. Your children can park somewhere, God knows where, and walk there to get to work in the morning. No. I understand what you're saying, and I know that it'd be good when we could drive through our town on a Sunday and see a whole bunch of green areas in front of people's houses. But there's a lot more to what makes this city run and what makes its people tick by seeing 5 more spots along a block that's green. We're a working class town, and somehow, every once in a while, we lose sight of that. But I think that we need to listen to the planning commission, and if they're gonna hold public hearings that we have to make decisions on, then maybe they should hold them right here with us on the night this body meets. And maybe I could see things a little more clearly, because I gotta be honest with you, I'm tired. I don't have the time to go to all these
Right,
meetings.
right.
I'm not in favor of stripping one by one the public of the basic rights they have for the taxes they pay, because right now they're paying too much. I voted for it, you voted for it, but they need to have something. And we need to be the ones to make those decisions. It's so much easier to appoint somebody that's not held their feet to the fire than the elected, the body that elects us. But that's not, we're shirking our responsibility, in my opinion, if we do that. We need to be the ones held accountable for what we do, not someone else. That's my opinion.
I don't think my intentions whatsoever would be to take...
not accusing you of
No,
that.
I know, take anything away from homeowners, but I think that sometimes you have to have some kind of input as to...
I understand.
Something that's reasonable, so that somebody just doesn't go ahead and just...
But you know what? If you sit here and listen to these people tonight, what they said to them is reasonable. They're not trying to take anything away from the city, and they're not trying to detract from the value of it. They're trying to exist with what they've got, and it's been there 100 years. So it would be so much easier for us to say, we're not going to decide that. We're going to let somebody decide that this mayor or some other mayor will appoint. And then we can say, we didn't make that decision, the planning commission did. You know, before you know it, we're not going to make any decisions. And when that happens, that might be a good thing. Maybe we should hire people to do it and not elect them. We could do that with the mayor. We could hire our manager. They do it in the school district. They vote for the board members, and the people that run the show are hired. They stay there, and elected people come and go. And every year somebody says, what happened? I'll tell you, you need to really think about this. I don't say that you shouldn't work with the planning commission, because I think they're a very dedicated body of people. And I think we could take a lesson from all of them. But if the night that they meet is wrong, put them here the night that we meet. We'll stay here an hour longer.
I just think the information isn't, we're not getting enough information to make good decisions.
Well,
We really aren't, because we're not
it
hearing...
boils down to one thing. How does your city look if somebody puts blacktop or pavement down rather than grass? That's what it is. I mean, what else is it?
Somewhat.
I think it's a little more than that. I think we got two issues here. We got the issue of whether or not we want to allow, if this council wants to allow the planning commission to make the decision about right-of-ways.
I understand that
That's one issue.
completely.
The other issue
That didn't
is,
escape me.
which is the more important issue, is establishing appropriate criteria for the right-of-way if, in fact, we will allow, as we did tonight, a pad or whatever for parking in the right-of-way. What kind of pad? The question came up, is it going to be tarvia or concrete? They decided concrete. Other places might have wanted tarvia. What is going to be the standard? If it is concrete, how thick? Those issues aren't addressed in the present code. And I think the reason for the planning commission, because I was there that night, as a matter of fact, I spoke to the issue as well, was because we don't have enough criteria, specific criteria regarding the right-of-ways in terms of materials, size, and if, my point earlier with the Dowd case was, if she couldn't expend the money for the extension of that pad in the right-of-way to then create a driveway, then how is it she's got the money to create a second pad, which is now in the right-of-way as well?
Right.
So those are the issues that I think we need to talk about in conjunction with the Planning Commission, and that's why I would strongly suggest and recommend to the council that we go forward with a moratorium, perhaps till April 1 of next year.
Well,
By then, the season will be coming around again for that kind of work.
I think, too, what happens is we've had a couple of situations lately where the planning commission denies something and the council goes ahead and approves it.
We just did that tonight.
Right, but
Well, some of the members did that tonight.
we don't
That's always
necessarily,
gonna happen.
we don't necessarily have, we also don't have timeframes that we're giving, like on site plan review, we're finding out that we don't have timeframes in place. And what the person bringing forward has maybe brought forward to the planning commission, and because of those reasons, the planning commission denies it, then they come to the council, and the council just approves it. What are we approving?
Right, I agree.
Because
We need to
they've already
be
denied
somewhat
it,
on the
so-
same page based on specific criteria.
well, I think...
And that's
that-
not there.
I think this one we did tonight is pretty clear. I mean, there's a picture there, and it's, you know,
Well, I don't think it's clear in the sense that if they could afford a second pad, then why not start a driveway?
well, then...
That's
now
where
we're
I'm
gonna-
not clear.
Well, I understand what you're saying. So what we're trying to do is tell people how they're going to spend their money. I'm not sure that that's right either. I'm not sure that that's our function. We're already telling them how to spend their money and their taxes and their water bills.
Well, no, Ron, I think you've
Well, we
taken
are.
that.
We are.
You know, there are places in this city that have no other place to park. We all
Right.
know they exist. That doesn't mean we're going to say, well, sorry, you can't park there, you're going to have to go find a parking garage. Those can be permitted as an exception to the rule because we know those situations exist. This is not about trying to overly burden the people, but to have some criteria by which we make these decisions. Right now, we have a few, but they're not sufficient.
Okay. Well, on this one, if we allowed the one pad to the right, they could possibly squeeze two cars in there or park on the street. I'm not sure parking on the street, especially with the winters the way we've got them, is that great an idea. You know, I see what you say, they could extend the driveway in back of the house. And I would hope, and I thought I heard her say they would consider doing that, or they wanted to do that.
Exactly.
In the future,
That's,
yeah.
Yeah. But she's not even sure they can do the other pad because of financial concerns. But I think that you make a good point. You have a resolution here for a moratorium. Maybe you ought to put it up and let the council vote on it.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Only to interject a date per suggestion of council, and I would recommend April 1.
Well, we have to have the resolution read, and then it
Right.
has to be offered.
All right, now, let me
Just
understand
would-
this.
Well, go ahead.
Do we have any more right-of-way proposals on here? If we do this, so...
Item number 7.
We take 7 out.
If we pass a moratorium.
If you pass this and put a date in there, you should put in some reasons for coming up with that date and a plan. I mean, this is, obviously, I think you're talking about moratorium for studying, which is what they're supposed to be for. So I think you need to put in your resolution who's going to do the study and what they're going to study and what the time frame is in order to come up with a date.
Okay,
I
but
don't think you could just pick a date at random.
I don't think it's fair for anybody that had a proposal on to shut it out tonight. I think you ought to date this after this and consider the one that's on there. We just passed one. How
You
come-
could, if you do a moratorium, you could say it's effective with any that are applied for after today, or, I mean, you can do that if you want, sure.
Yeah, I don't see how we can, fair play, do that. How do you feel about that?
I agree on that.
Joe?
We can like it.
We'll do one more.
Okay. I mean, at least finish out what we've got tonight, and then consider your agenda for, or your proposal for something after that. And listen to what the public's got to say. Make our decision based on that.
Do I understand that you want to redraft the moratorium for the next meeting with the language in it that is required per the city attorney?
Yes.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you wanted to do that tonight.
I thought we could do it tonight if we,
Well, we can do it tonight. We're just right.
if we're looking for a date and we're looking for
Then I misunderstood.
who's going to
the
handle
city
this,
attorney.
is that what you're
Well, no,
asking?
yeah, so you put a start date on it so that this item here is not included in the moratorium.
I'm not saying you can do it tonight or can't, I'm just saying whatever date you put in, that it expires, there has to be a reason for that date. You can't just say April 1st because it's April 1st. You have to say April 1st because we intend to have this group study it, and this group meets monthly, and we think it's going to take them this long, that kind of thing.
That sounds good.
But that language is not in there at this time.
Correct, it
and
should
it's-
be.
It's either add the language now before voting on it, or postponing the
Postpone it
vote
to the next-
until it gets rewritten. So, what's your,
Might we see a additional right-of-way request between now and then?
Well, you're going to see right-of-way requests. We have them on every agenda. I mean, they are, before we started this right-of-way request, it was going on all the time. We just didn't bring them to the council floor.
Maybe an informal poll to see if it would.
Before we tried to control.
Can the city clerk just add those two sentences that the city attorney mentioned?
Well, I'm not
To the
gonna make-
resolution?
I mean, you guys have to decide the time limit and the basis for it. I can't decide that for you. I'm not gonna make that up. I mean, that's my whole point.
How about if you,
Because I don't know who you're talking about studying it, I don't know what they're gonna
Planning
study.
commission and the council.
But the planning commission asked that it be the comprehensive plan zoning committee that study it. Isn't that's what this says. So how often do they meet? What's, how long do they intend to?
Can I make an off-the-cuff comment? Not that it really get too bad, but it'd all be a moot point if that moratorium didn't pass.
Well, a straw poll at this time might,
I would suggest
Make that irrelevant.
A straw poll to see where this moratorium resolution could go or not go. Because
Okay.
I will beat a dead horse if this thing's just not.
a straw poll on the vote on a moratorium tonight?
Okay?
I'm against the moratorium.
Second ward.
I'm against it.
Third ward.
Strongly in favor.
Fourth.
Strongly in favor.
Fifth.
Against.
Sixth.
no. No, that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at
You can't
it.
consider changes to the process or changes to the law or
Yeah.
changes to how things are done.
I think there ought to be
It's not gonna be decided tonight.
I think there ought to be some kind of study done, Your Honor, to see how many places in the city actually need to utilize the right-of-way and don't have alternatives.
And I do like your idea, Ron, about having the planning commission be a part of our meeting on Tuesday nights also. I think that's an important part
Well, I
of the
think
process
that,
too.
I think on certain issues, we know that all the council can't be at everything. I know I can't, but there is a lot of expertise there, and I think that we should work together then. And I don't think anybody holds, my idea of a public hearing that used to be, of course, I know I'm living in the past, we used to hold a public hearing and we decided what the issue was going to be. We didn't hold a public hearing in an appointed committee and then have the elected body decide what the outcome was.
There hasn't been a public hearing held on these. The public hearings are being held here.
I know, but Bob said, didn't you say that they were holding hearings at the planning commission for things like this?
No.
No, they're just getting
They could-
input from the
They're
people.
getting,
Or you wanted them to?
They could
well, the
hold
thing
a
is,
public hearing.
yeah, they could. The thing is that the planning commission is getting a lot more information than the council is. So I just
Okay.
think that
I
the
don't
council
disagree with that.
is not in a good position to make a good decision because they haven't heard as much as the planning commission has.
Well, then we need to be put in a position that we do get the information so we can make a good.
And to add to that, if there's going to be any challenge to the decision, this council is only making its decision based on what's in front of it. If there's another body out there that actually has more information, that information would not be considered part of any challenge.
Right.
It's got to all come here.
I know the zoning board of appeals acts independent of the council, and I think the fire and police commission does.
Would you check under meetings in the charter, or at least in Chamber book, in the charter, the common council is required to have their official meeting on the first Tuesday of the month.
Right.
Is the time specified?
Let's see.
And why I'm asking you to look this up, if the time isn't specified, do we need to adjust the time of the common council meeting to allow the planning commission to have a meeting prior to the council meeting, but the council could be here to hear what is brought to the planning commission?
I think you ought to require the council to be
No
here.
time, it just says common council shall hold regular stated meetings on the first Tuesday of each month, and the common council members such other times shall by resolution.
So we can do that.
Doesn't
Yeah.
say-
That's a very good idea.
Actually, Your Honor, that's up to you. You can require this council meeting when you want them to. You can even send the police to go get them, if they don't show up, you know?
I don't want to do that.
I did.
I don't want to do that.
We'll get you.
Okay,
We got an idea
we'll
where-
take that under, definitely under advisement. I've heard what the council said tonight about wanting more information, and I will talk with the chairman of the planning commission and see if we can't work out a schedule whereby the hearing or the meetings of are the same night as the council. We'll stagger the hours and see if we can't work through it that way.
Okay.
Now we can go to item number 7.
Resolve the right-of-way request submitted by Mr. William Stell, 255 South Sixth Street, to create a two-car driveway, one for the residents at 255 South Sixth Street and one for the residents at 259 South Sixth Street. Be referred to the Fulton Planning Commission for the review and recommendation.
Motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item.
Notation that the appointment by Mayor Stafford of Ms. Valerie D'Imperio, Secretary to the Plumbing and HVAC Board, effective September 1st, 2003, and to expire December 31st, 2003, to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Catherine Mahalik, is hereby entered into the minutes of this council meeting of September 2nd, 2003, as a matter of record.
Next item.
Notation that the reappointment by Mayor Stafford of Mr. David Geyer to the Fulton Housing Authority Board, effective July 16th, 2003, to expire July 15th, 2008, is hereby entered into the minutes of this council meeting of September 2nd, 2003, as a matter of record.
Next item.
Whereas the city has recently taken title to several properties through tax foreclosures, whereas included among said properties is a property known as 513 Batavia Avenue, previously owned by Hopkins. And whereas Section 1166 of the New York State Real Property Tax Law allows for the sale of said property by this council, either with or without advertising for bids. Now therefore be it resolved that said property at 513 Batavia Avenue will be sold at auction by this common council on the 23rd day of September 2003 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers upon the following terms and conditions. 1, the minimum opening bid shall be $15,000. Subsequent bids shall be in increments of $100. The city reserves the right to reject any and all bids. The accepted bidder shall deposit 10% of the purchase price with the city clerk in cash or certified funds. The balance shall be due and payable to the city clerk within 10 days of the auction, or the bid will be rejected. And the next lowest bidder will be considered by the council. This 10-day deadline may be extended upon proof of financing. 5, the city makes no representation as to the zoning, codes or rental permit compliances of this property. 6, the city clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise for sale of the property at 513 Batavia Avenue.
Can I ask a question? Can we establish the minimum bid at 10,000 instead of 15?
It's whatever you guys want. I thought that was what was discussed, though.
Well, we discussed it, but then Ron thought that, going with a lower and bidding up was a good idea too.
It's your
It might
guys.
pique more interest if it's a little bit lower bid.
Are you making a motion to change,
To amend it,
with the
yes.
change to 10,000?
Yes.
Is there a second?
One thing, I'll second, Your Honor, that we noticed, like that place on Third and Oneida, we started low, but when we got done, we got like 10 times out of it what we ever dreamed we'd get out of it.
You never know.
We hold so much property right now that we
Yes,
need
we need to get rid of it, get it back in the tax rolls, definitely.
When you get in a situation when two people want a piece of property badly enough, that's when the,
Yeah.
So we have
games
the
begin.
motion on the floor as read with the modification from 15,000 to 10,000 as a minimum bid. We have a motion and a second.
Yes, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item.
Whereas the city has a management agreement with Syracuse Stars Junior Hockey Club Incorporated regarding the ice skating rink at the Fulton Community Center. Whereas said agreement provides that Syracuse Stars will have the ice ready for skating by August 25th each year. Whereas August 25th has passed, the ice is not ready. Syracuse Stars is yet to respond to the city's request to advise its intentions regarding honoring the agreement this year. And various groups who use ice have expressed concern to the city regarding whether they will have a place to skate this year. Now therefore be it resolved that in anticipation of Syracuse Stars breaching said agreement, and in response to the fact that it already has done so, the city hereby requests proposals from any individual group or entity interested in running the ice rink this season, and said proposals to be turned into the city clerk's office by 5 p.m. Friday, September 19th, 2003.
I didn't put anything in there about the advertising, but
Okay.
that you might want to add that if this is going to pass.
I'll offer that.
second.
With advertising?
Yep, with advertising.
Okay?
Any further discussion?
The only thing I could say, Your Honor, is most of the council, I think, is aware of what's going on over there. I don't think we need to belabor it or argue about it, but somehow we need to try to find a way to have a place for young people to ski. City used to run it, and for a number of years, it seemed to work out to our advantage. The equipment started to get old, and the older it gets, the more water it requires without maintenance to make ice. If we end up running this, I think what we need to do is seriously consider doing some kind of bond proposal to replace that equipment, and it won't cost you hardly anything. The equipment's wore out, and I think the interest is lost.
We, just trying to go through the calendar, the 19th is on Friday, right? But I think between, I don't know what time high school starts or hockey starts or whatever the dates are, is there a way to either move the date up or, I see we already have a special meeting scheduled shortly thereafter.
Well, our next meeting's the 23rd.
If the RFPs come in the 19th, we can vote on something the 23rd.
We're having a meeting on the 16th.
Oh, that?
It's been changed to the 23rd.
Okay.
Cool.
So I made this returnable a few days before the 23rd to give us time to look it over.
I'm not sure.
You know why. Rather than have it due the 23rd, this gives,
I still don't know what anybody else is, what high school schedule. You guys are the hockey group? Yes. That Fulton Youth Hockeyers have a high school or?
October 1st?
Everybody, or when does everybody's season supposed to start?
We start, well, we're usually on the ice in September. September 20th is when our midgets start.
my understanding was that if a group files an RFP and it's granted by this council on the 23rd, that would just barely be enough time.
Yes, we've already got ice elsewhere for the beginning of our season.
As long as whoever gets it is up and running, like pronto, yeah.
but we need an answer just for the people in a program, if there's gonna be a program.
Yeah.
We have, Lysander has tryouts this coming Friday, and if we do not have an existing program, they can go try out there and travel. If we do, then they cannot, they can only go play house. But we have people calling on a daily basis, all of us, wanting an answer because of the meeting that we had with Mayor Stafford, when it came before our parents. They expected an answer on the 26th. Now it's,
Well, the answer is we have to go out for an RFP.
Right.
So, you know, we're going to try to work with any group that comes through with a proposal that wants to do this. And we will, as I said, work with everybody to try to get this done. I would love to have him tomorrow say, yeah, we're going to honor the agreement, because he's already said he's going to honor the agreement. But apparently,
It's too bad things ended up the way they were, Your Honor.
so regardless, one way or the other, we are gonna have ice, and we're gonna be open, is that what you're?
what we're going to say is if there is an agreeable proposal for on these requests for proposals, if they come in and the council agrees to one of them on the 23rd, whoever is agreed upon, it's a go.
Your Honor,
The 24th.
our staff can make ice, can't they?
Yeah, we meet on the
Our
23rd.
staff knows how to make ice.
I'm not sure of that. It's been that long.
Yeah, we may not have anybody,
that-
I'm not sure. These-
that-
Well, we
We've
use
got,
it.
there's been some people coming in to look at the
Terry County.
equipment.
I want to check with Davis again, because we build by standards.
For free?
Well,
But there's some, there are some people that have been brought in to look at the equipment to see just what the condition is, and will that equipment with some maintenance make ice this season?
okay. Well, the only thing I was thinking, if we have enough interest for these RFPs, maybe we could make ice ahead of time.
Yes.
But,
Yeah, that's,
understand what I'm saying, so we don't lose that time?
Well, we still have a little bit of sensitivity because we still have a contract, and that's why this is worded this way, that it's in anticipation of them breaching it. I wouldn't advise us to go make ice tomorrow,
Yeah,
because
but the only thing is, that contract works two ways. They have an obligation to the young people in this community. I
no
don't think they're
question.
living up to it.
No question, that's what I put in here.
But I think we do too, you know?
yeah, I have some real concerns to make sure that we have ice in the community center, you know?
I agree with Bob. on
These
that one.
organizations have been,
He has management.
have been there for, you know, I hate to see them not have available ice, and sending people to another community is not my
No.
my idea of the way to do business. But I mean, the youth hockey group has been very supportive. I've had conversations with them, and they're a strong group of people with a lot of incentive. So let's hope that we make good decisions and get that going.
Well, the only thing is, whatever decision is made is gonna be a financial decision by this council. Because you gotta pay for ice if we make it and somebody doesn't take it over. But I just thought if there was some good faith somewhere out there, whether it's these guys that are trying to beat us out of a bunch of money or the youth groups, it might be good faith on our part if we could get the ice ready ahead of time.
Well, if, I would think that some of the people that are looking at this equipment to check it to see if it's operable, and it does turn out to be operable, and
We've had a couple different companies. The method that we have right now is $3,500 to partially charge the system, to diagnose it, to give us a complete diagnosis on how much it is going to take to make it a run brick. We need to do that soon. We can't wait until the end of this month
no,
to diagnose it, to find out where we are.
I understand that. We need to,
You have those proposals to diagnose it, are they in what you give us?
You all
Nick?
have copies of the
It's in there.
so far. I have one appointment in the morning again, and I'll be getting that phone number before I leave.
Okay.
And that's what our concern is. And if we wait till the 23rd, and then the 24th, we can take it
no,
over.
you won't have to wait that long. Get me the proposals, the ones that you have, we'll look at them, if it's something that we can do within budget, and it sounds like that is something that is doable, we can at least get it diagnosed and find out what we've got to deal with.
I think, Your Honor, that stuff I gave you tonight that she gave me earlier, the proposals are in there.
But she's got another one coming and looking at it tomorrow, so.
Okay.
But thank you for all the help that you've been on getting stuff together on this, the information and getting people in to test it and like that. That's really appreciated. That's what working together is going to come to a good end here.
In regards to the ice also, we had a couple of discussions about the Zamboni. Did anybody ever hear any more about that or not?
No. No, I have not. Do we have a motion?
We have a
We have
motion
a
and a
motion
second.
and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Next item.
Resolved that sub 165, subsection 165-54, Schedule 10 of the Vehicle and Traffic Ordinance, City of Fulton, entitled Vehicle Weight Limits, be amended to read as follows. Add South 4th Street, 9 tons from East Broadway south to Fay Street. Delete South 4th Street, 2 tons from East Broadway south to Fay Street.
Motion?
Move it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
The clerk was authorized to receive bids today. I received one bid from Tracy Road Equipment, $171,777 for a new 4x4 snowplow truck. Recommendation, it was for Tracy Road Equipment. Recommendation from Mr. Edick of Fulton Engineering Department. He's recommended to award it to Tracy Road Equipment. And the motion would be to award it to Tracy in the amount of $171,777.
That kind of money, is it shiny and yellow?
Yes, it is.
You got the city seal on it?
It will move a lot of snow.
I'll
I
have to-
didn't look at the capital plan. Was that about what we have budgeted in the capital plan?
It's less than what we had.
Less?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not bad, really.
No.
I'll have to, Your Honor.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that Chapter 165, subsection 165-34, entitled Time Limit Permits, be amended to read as follows. 165-34.A1, A and B, amended to read as follows. Parking lot number 1 west of South 2nd Street. A, the business fronts along the north side, south side, and west side of Lot 1, and the 10 spaces north of South 2nd Street entrance on the east side, 2-hour parking from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. every day. B, the center island of Lot number 1, containing 63 spaces, and the 9 spaces south of South 2nd Street, entrance, no restrictions.
Everybody down there on board with this?
We had a meeting of all the downtown merchants and came up with this plan. We had a map out, we colored in what we're going to make 2-hour, what we're going to leave unrestricted, and they came to an agreement on that. In fact, they added more 2-hour than what was. Doug Castor was at the meeting, yes.
Okay. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there anyone in the audience that has any business to bring before the council? Hearing none. On the council.
What was our final decision on the moratorium? What did we decide to do?
You would, as written,
As written, but we're going to rewrite it.
if you want it rewritten and proposed for the next meeting, that's completely up to you.
And one other thing to bring up on that, Bob, and with Archie here, the planning commission, by our code, has the right to make recommendations to the council to change the zoning. So the planning commission could recommend to the council that the whole right-of-way law be changed if that, maybe that's one way to do it, at least while this moratorium issue is still out there.
But that was just defeated, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah.
It ain't gonna come up again unless you wanna bring it up again, but the straw vote said no.
Yeah.
Well, but that was as written.
No, I thought that was a moratorium in general.
Quite frankly, this whole right-of-way issue is getting to be ridiculous. Okay? The problem is, you people here do not have enough sufficient information to make good judgment calls. You had a situation this evening, the lady wanted 2 parking areas in the right-of-way. When she came before us, she refused to use any of her own property for a driveway. Now, if you heard that, you begin to wonder, is she worried about the rest of the town, or the people in the town, or is she only concerned with using the city's right of way? There was another one 2 weeks ago. Man has a duplex. He has a garage with 5 of his own cars in it. And yet he asked for a right-of-way across the sidewalk on the front of his house. We asked him to put it on the side road, in the right-of-way on the side road. Refused it. That's not where he wanted it. When it came to you people, okay, you gave it to him, and that's all right. That's what you're here for. But these things have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. And you guys won't take the time, or can't take the time, to do that. When they come to us, we have to make a decision. We make them answer all the questions that we have. And we make a recommendation based on 6 different people's best opinion. Okay, but it becomes very difficult when it comes back here, because you guys all got to get elected again. We don't. We don't.
That's the point we were trying to make.
Yeah, but you know what, you can say that with every issue we get.
Yeah, I believe you, Ron, and I know that you're very sincere in what you're saying. We certainly don't want to take any of your authority away from you.
I don't see it as
As a matter
authority,
of fact,
I see it as
let me tell you
responsibility.
this. Take the ROWs away from us, and you take care of them.
Maybe we should,
Hold on.
maybe we should.
If I remember right, that law was created because somebody decided to dig up their entire front yard after they lied about talking to their neighbors.
Right.
And that's really what it boils down to. Now, if nothing else, there's a lot less people going out digging up their entire front yards without any permission and just doing it.
Almost every
So if
law,
nothing else, at least we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have neighbors all pissed off at each other because, yes, I told you I was gonna do it when I really didn't, so I start digging up at 10 o'clock during the Memorial Day parade, and you start calling because you didn't know about it, even though I told everybody else I did.
the sad part of it is half the laws that we pass are passed because somebody does something they shouldn't do.
That's true.
So everybody gets caught in that.
You know, these right-of-way things, I could cite 50 different ones right now.
I know.
I don't mean to. You had one in particular comes to mind now. He came to us and we asked him, okay, listen, instead of 33 feet, would you consider paving only 28 feet, I believe the numbers were. Okay, and he said, no, he couldn't. If he couldn't have the 33, then he wouldn't do it. Hey, listen, you can do whatever you want. We recommended against it. He came here and he inadvertently said to you people, well, I made a mistake in my calculations.
I remember it.
Okay, you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, you know what he did? He took out what he had already paid. Okay, and then he said, this is all I need now. All that did was give him all the front yard paved. The same day they paved his, 2 doors down, the man paved his front yard. Never even came to the planning commission. Never even came to the common council. Frankly, if you're gonna do it right. Let somebody take care of changing our ordinance. Right now, you're spending money with the comprehensive plan.
Right.
Let them tell you what they think is best, and then decide from there. Then you will be assuming your responsibilities, right?
But you know what, Arch? It seems like every time we come up with all these grand plans, it's when the city's at the worst it could possibly be. You know? I mean, you go through this town and there's not a block in this city where somebody's house isn't for sale. We're losing all our jobs. We're losing everything.
They're not all like that, Ron.
And we're putting,
I just sold a house and built another one across the street.
I know you did it. I know you did a good job, and I'm glad that you're that fortunate, but not everybody is. And you know what? Half of them are, or a fourth of us are leaving, and we're putting all the restrictions on the ones that are left. It's,
We're not putting any restrictions on it.
I know.
Yeah, I don't see it as restrictions, I see it as guidelines. Because if we don't have some guidelines, what you attempted to do by that piece of legislation was a good thing. But if you don't improve upon it, like a lot of our legislation, it's going to constantly just get worse.
when we tell somebody how to spend their money, it's more than guidelines. It's legislation.
Ron, it's in the city right away. The city owns the property. It's not a,
Let me ask you a question. Who is the city? The city council? I don't think so. The planning commission?
well, then
I
you
don't
better
think
put it under referendum and let all of the city
so. Well,
people
that
vote on
could
it.
be. That might be a good idea, but I will tell you right now, the city right away belongs to the people who live in the city of Fulton, taxpayers, not us, not the planning commission.
We're responsible for it.
We're only put here to do what we think is best, and if they decide it isn't good, they'll
But
throw us out.
how far do you want to take that argument? Because you could then say,
Oh, I know.
it's open, do whatever the hell you want. Take the traffic lights down, we don't need that, it costs too much money.
We're talking about right away, we're not talking about traffic.
No, but your argument is such that we're trying to hit the people.
Your
where they're down.
recommendation is to,
My recommendation would be to let the people that are working on the comprehensive plan do this study and come back to that, come back to you people anyway.
Well, they can include that as part of the
Okay?
study. They would-
Include that into the comprehensive plan.
I don't think they need specific authorization for that. The only thing you were looking for was a moratorium, which obviously isn't going to pass tonight.
Quite honestly, I was in here for that portion of the meeting that night. I had to excuse myself, so because I would not have voted for a moratorium.
But the,
I think that's more wrong, Ron, than making a decision.
but the,
Probably right.
but the comprehensive plan zoning committee can still look at this issue
But
and
we're not
report
that far
back
apart.
without, you know.
thank you.
Thanks, Arch.
Yep.
Where were we?
Moving right along.
We're getting ready to go home, I think.
Way down to Bob.
No, we're all set.
Oh, my.
Mine.
Mayor, I don't know if they're going to come back or not, but I had numerous phone calls. Chestnut Street, going across West Second, that was just paved, heading west. There's a dip in the road. Numerous calls of people just, can that be feathered out? Are they finished or they're not finished?
Where?
Chestnut,
Certainly not one of them.
Second
heading,
Chestnut?
Second and Chestnut, corner of Second and Chestnut, heading west,